Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Rex sent me a note. It says, Steve, check out the story involving HOAs. And of course, we love our HOA stories. But this is a new one. An HOA in Arizona is under fire again, now accused of not disclosing a lawsuit to new home buyers. So if you're buying a home in this community, you're going to have to join the HOA because that's part of the deed to the home. And unbeknownst, apparently, to some new home buyers, is that the HOA is embroiled in litigation. And of course, if they're embroiled in litigation, it costs money. Who pays for it? Well, the members of the association pay for it. So when you buy a home in an HOA that's embroiled in litigation, you might be buying yourself into a lawsuit that you may have to pay for. So Jason Berry wrote this for AZ Family. This woman that they interviewed read over all the disclosure forms and saw no red flags when she purchased her home in this community back in February. She said, I love the community with everyone outside playing. I didn't have that in my last neighborhood. Shortly after the sale went through, she learned about a lawsuit that the HOA is involved in. Now, this surprised her because the disclosure documents from the HOA specifically address if the association is involved in any current or pending litigation. And it said no. Now, she says we should be able to, as buyers, go into the purchase with all the information presented to us so we can make educated decisions. We have no idea how that's going to impact us with special assessments in the future. An increase in dues. Are the dues going to increase so much because of all of this? Does the house become challenging for resale? There are so many unknowns. And that's the interesting thing. If the disclosure form actually says, is there any pending litigation? And they check the box no. And there is, that's a problem. Now, what if there was no disclosure form? Then there'd be an argument about whether or not it was material. Because remember that if you are entering a contract with somebody and you know information that they do not, and you don't disclose it, you can be accused of misrepresentation. But the question always is the information you're withholding material? And so a person could always say, gee, I didn't think that mattered. Well, here, it's not a question whether it mattered or not. It was on the form. So you've got a false statement on a form, allegedly, that's being used to induce somebody to make a purchase. So last week, Arizona Family spoke to several homeowners in the HOA who were concerned about all the money that the HOA is spending on legal fees stemming from a lawsuit that the HOA filed to stop a developer from renting out 120 condo units. The developer filed a multi-million-dollar counterclaim. Some residents have complained their HOA kept them in the dark about the lawsuit for more than a year. Now it appears that the management company may have kept new homeowners in the dark as well by providing wrong information on the disclosure forms, which, of course, is also a violation of state law. I've mentioned before, for instance, in Michigan, if you sell real estate, there's a mandated disclosure form that the seller must fill out and give to the buyer so many days before the closing to give them the opportunity to think about whether they want to actually go through with it. And it asks questions which would be things that the seller should know, but the buyer probably wouldn't know, such as, has the property ever flooded? Things like that. A potential buyer should know about pending litigation because as they become members of the association, with the completion of the transaction, they become obligated and required to pay assessments that may be involved in paying for that litigation, says the Deputy Director of Arizona Department of Real Estate. And keep in mind that it's like a little government, which can be both good and bad, because you, as a member of the HOA, get to vote in that little government. Of course, if that little government incurs some massive costs, like in a lawsuit, well, that falls on all the people who are members of that little country. Thinking of it that way. A spokesperson for the management company said one of its vendors is to blame for the misinformation on the disclosure forms. Their vendor is to blame. And they released a statement. Upon learning of the issue created by a third-party vendor, we immediately contacted the vendor. We cannot confirm how many buyers might have been affected by the technical glitch at this time. However, we have and will continue to work with any homeowner who believes they were wrongfully impacted. Meanwhile, a realtor and homeowner there they talked to doesn't understand how it can take more than 14 months after the lawsuit was filed to fix the problem on the disclosure forms? Well, you heard him. There's a technical glitch. Technical glitches happen all the time. It's weird, though, how technical glitches almost always glitch in the favor of the person who's in charge. It didn't accidentally say there was litigation when there wasn't. It accidentally said there was no litigation when there was. See, it's the weirdest thing. So the homeowner and realtor says that doesn't add up. At the end of the day, it's on them to have proper documentation. So according to some people they talked to here, the only recourse new home buyers have if they weren't told about pending litigation would be to sue the management company in civil court. And of course, suing the management company might wind up somehow costing you even more money. Of course, it will if you hire your own attorneys. But the weird part about all of this is you then have to prove what your damages are. And you can, by the way, but it's just such a lengthy process. So in case you're curious, let's suppose that somebody said, Steve, how are you going to prove that in a hypothetical world? Well, I would bring in some people with real estate backgrounds and say, can you examine a bunch of cases and tell me, to a reasonable degree of certainty, how much it devalues property if the property is in a homeowners association that is embroiled in multi-million-dollar litigation versus one that's not? And I'm willing to bet you that a realtor would say, yeah, I can estimate that for you. I can ballpark it for you. And see, the thing is that if they can ballpark it close enough, the court's going to go, okay, that makes sense. Now, of course, the other side's going to bring in experts and say, no. We've determined it does nothing. In fact, if anything, it increases the value of your house. I've seen experts say all kinds of crazy stuff. But we all know that this is. So I'll give you another example, and I'm purposely picking an example that's easier to relate to. But let's suppose that you bought a vehicle and you got everything in writing, and the person put in writing, this vehicle has never been in an accident. And they put that in writing, and they sold you the vehicle. And you found out it was in an accident, and it was the seller who was in the accident with it. And they know because they took it and got it fixed at a body shop, and they paid to have it fixed. So now you've got this vehicle that's got an accident in its history. And again, I know people go, Steve, you just do Carfax. No, I'm giving you a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical for a reason. Because you can monetize or quantify how much is devalued by having been in an accident and being repaired. Boom. So you bring in some car people who price cars and ask them, can you tell me what that car is worth right there if it's never been in an accident? Sure. Can you tell me what it's worth now if I tell you it has been in an accident, it required this much, and I show you the repair orders, this much repair? Yes. Okay. Diminution in value. How much is the value diminished? How much is it brought down? And so to buy your way into a lawsuit while purchasing a house in an HOA can probably be monetized. Probably. But I say that in the sense that it's not going to be scientific to the penny. And the other side will have experts that are going to go, no. In fact, I kind of like homes that are involved in litigation. They're more interesting. So, but I feel really bad for people who bought into this because those disclosure forms exist for a reason. And there needs to be some kind of ramifications for places that don't fill them up properly. And to blame it on a technical glitch with a third-party vendor doesn't matter. Because if I delegate a job to somebody else that I'm required to do by law, I need to make sure they're doing their job right. Because guess what? If they do it wrong, that comes back on me, not on them. The third-party vendor is not under an obligation to disclose this information. The HOA management company is. And so if they go, well, a third-party vendor had a technical glitch. Oh, and if that was a good excuse, the law becomes meaningless. Because all you do is hire third-party vendors who have technical glitches. And you don't have to disclose anything, right? So, Rex, thanks for sending it from AZ Family. And Jason Berry wrote it. HOA in Arizona under fire again, accused of not disclosing lawsuit to new home buyers. And they claim it's been happening for quite some time. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law.
I've told so many lies about my age, I don't know how old I am myself.